there's not this incredible increase in jobs for older Americans that are full-time permanent. That is not the case, and the trend is continuing to grow. What is growing is work that has to be done by people who know how to do it. So it needs to be pretty senior people, but they don't want anybody full-time permanent. They want people full-time but not permanent. So your ability to flex and to use that muscle and to get out and be able to talk about what it is you can offer people and what it is you can do for people is extremely important. Otherwise, you're living in the 80s of, there was a job, I applied for it, and I get called in. And that's just not going to work anymore. It used to work, you were out over a year, but it worked. Now it doesn't work at all. Period. Full stop, not going to happen. So the thing I really want you to do is to take ownership of who you are and what you do, and make sure you take it out into the market so you're able to say, here are the 4 things I do really well. This, 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 and this. And I'm happy to do this in whatever way makes sense for you. The 2 things it sounds like that are happening in your organization are this and this. And the way that I would approach it is this. And what we did in the old days when we built relationships was you went in 3, 4, 5, 6 times and you built a relationship. Except now you get 1 meeting. Just 1. And so in that 1 meeting, you gotta bring it, and you gotta bring it all. Here's what I would do, here's how I would do it, here's why you might like me to do it. I don't need a full-time permanent job, I don't need a large staff. I definitely need to meet with head of distribution and this person, but if I meet with those 2 people, I'm in great shape and I'm kind of moving, and then I can present to you sort of my discovery piece and my recommendation piece, and then we can talk about implementation. And if you need me for implementation, I'm here, and if you don't, no worries. No worries at all. I'm happy to do the discovery piece and I'm happy to do the recommendation piece. So you get to use your expertise, you get to meet new people, you get to be in and be seen as in. You get to put another name on your resume, you get to put another name on your LinkedIn, you get to post stuff. You get to be a subject matter expert because everything between your ears you still have. It's just a matter of you depicting your subject matter expertise, not to yourself in the shower, but to someone else. And so that's why consulting to me is the way to really focus your time and attention. And the focus on doing that is the same as the focus on the job searches. You run around telling everybody what you can do. Just don't wait for jobs to show up online, because the work that needs to be done doesn't show up online. You meet with people, and then Joe introduces you to Jeff, and Jeff introduces you to Tim, and Tim introduces you to Sarah, and Sarah's the one that's got the work that needs to be done. So 1, you have to network into those. 2, it's the same process as job search. And 3, if you go to page 5, the key to successful consulting is the ability to solve the client's business or operational challenge quickly, and to be extremely flexible and unfazed by ambiguity and change. You have a solutions orientation and a value prop. So one of the things I notice at work is when I'm looking, and we have about 150 people, as you know, in the office at any one time who are looking for work. And when I walk over to someone and I say, hey, Steve, I have this really good idea for you, the way that Steve reacts to me is the way I can tell when he's gonna land. Because when I walk over to Steve and he bristles and looks like I've interrupted him, I know he's gonna be out over a year. And when I go over to Vince stops what he's doing, he jumps up and he says, Charlotte, I love that idea, tell me more. So you're either in a growth mindset or you're in a fixed mindset. And for those of you who want to know which one you're in, I can look at you and tell you which one you are in. Because I do this for a living. I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this. If you got this, you wouldn't be here. You don't got this. You want professional help. When I have a plumbing problem, I get a plumber in. And when I have a carpentry problem, I have a carpenter person in. When you have a job search issue, you get as many job search people around you as you possibly can to learn what to do and how to do it and when. And by the way, between you and me, this isn't even 2020, this is coronavirus 2020. So that's a very different 2020 than 3 weeks ago, as we can all agree. So now what are you gonna do? And I got people still doing the same thing they did in January. So I can assure you they're never gonna land. Forget about this year, certainly not this year, maybe next year, probably not. So at the end of the day, you're the one that determines what your job search is gonna look like. You're the one that determines how long it's gonna take, what it looks like, with whom. You determine all that. So my idea is to really just make sure you're moving to the market, and the market's interested in consultants. The market's interested in people who can come in, get deployed, do stuff, get it done without a lot of noise around it, without creating consternation in their marketplace. That's what the market's looking for. So the only other page I'm going to go through on the deck is page 7. On page 7, it talks about landing clients, proposals, fees, the pricing structure, and how to set your LLC up. We recommend an LLC, but of course you don't have to. Some people will hire, just had somebody picked up at one of the large banks, he doesn't have an LLC. He said it was exactly what you said, Charles. They asked me if I had an LLC. I said no, but I would set one up. They said, no, we've got this outside vendor, let me connect you to her. So they connected him to the gal who runs the outside vendor, and he's going through the outside vendor and doesn't need the LLC. So they do skim some money off the top, which is appropriate. They're doing all the administration, they have the relationship. The check actually has their name on it, not this large investment banking firm, but who cares? Give me the check, give me the money. I don't care, who cares? So to my mind, everyone's different as to what their comfort level is. My job is to really keep you as uncomfortable as possible. And if you are not uncomfortable, then you're complacent, and you're hoping to God on a wing and a prayer that someone passes a Hail Mary past you. And I don't want you to do that. That's not a strategy for job search. I'm all into prayer. I'm praying this coronavirus at some point gets contained, but we all know it's going to get substantially worse before it gets better. A lot more people are going to get sick and die before it gets better. That's just the reality. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality. Same thing with job search. It's going to get dramatically worse, and then it's going to get better. But you control some of this. You control your output. You control who you tap. You control who you network with. You control your metrics. You control how many people you're activating in your network. You control a lot of it. So to the extent that you control a lot of it and don't control it, nothing's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. And every once in a while I see that nothing's happening, and I say, well, tell me what you're doing. Let's get underneath this. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? This is all about you. So the only things I'm really focused on page 7 is to figure out how to pay the fees, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. In terms of figuring out what you're worth, I always tease people, it's a little like MasterCard. You are priceless, but we have to put a price on your head. It is difficult to figure out what the rest of the market is going for, and I always tell people, play your game. If anybody played a sport, they told you, just play your game. Don't worry about the right of you, don't worry about the left of you. Swim in your swim lane and go as fast and as hard as you possibly can if you want to win. Same with job search. Don't worry about the left, don't worry about the right. Just figure out your rate. And the way to figure out your rate is to take your all-in comp, your base plus your bonus, divide it by 230 days, which gives you a day rate, and divide that number by 8. That gives you an hourly rate. Period, full stop.
Base plus comp divided by 230.
Take your base salary plus your bonus, which is your all-in comp. So no RSUs, no first-time long-term incentives, nothing, just base cash, bonus cash. That gives you an all-in number. Divide that number by 230, which is the number of days you work. Divide that by 8, and that is your hourly rate and your daily rate. Now there are 2 ways to goose it up. You can add 10 or 15% because that will be what's called consultant creep. So the boss says, oh, in addition to meeting with those 4 people, I also need you to meet with Mary Rose, Tim, Jeff, and Ceciltine. And I'm thinking to myself, that's 4 more people to meet with. That's 4 more hours of work. You are not going back to them, asking them to pay you for that other 4 hours. You're going to leave the statement of work alone, and you're going to eat it because you put in 10 to 15% wiggle room in your numbers, which is what's called consultant creep. And it always happens. They always have something that prolongs how long this all takes. You can't keep going back and changing a statement of work because they decide not to move forward with your project. It's really a very thin line. So you want to be careful. Yes? Benefits is 30%. It used to be 20, and then it was 25, and I just talked to the head of benefits at a large company, and she said it's 30%. So if you're asking them to cover your benefits cost, it's typically 30% of your rate. The rate plus 30%. So rate plus 10 to 15, and rate plus 30 is benefits. I don't know anything about Medicare. I can't answer the question.
It's all the 30%.
What's the question?
It had to do with an employer's responsibility for Medicare. And I don't, the 30% in benefits, I didn't delineate when I spoke to my friend. I didn't ask her what's included in the 30%. Jeff's saying, I'll go with what Jeff said, but he's saying it's included. I didn't ask for an itemized of what the 30% was. I kind of threw it all in there, benefits. But I'm very focused on, of course, health benefits, for folks who are pre-Medicare years, anywhere between whatever and whatever, before you hit Medicare, we're all looking for some kind of coverage. So that's what that's included. So again, we recommend the LLC. I figured out the fees and the pricing for you. The key thing on the proposal section is the scope of work. You have got to make sure that everything you can think of is in that scope of work, because otherwise something bites you and the job that you thought was a profitable, reasonably priced job turns out not to be, because there's a big piece of it that you didn't get included. For example, I did a very good report for the board, and they asked me, to put it together, and they were going to present it, blah, blah, blah. So I spent 3 months on this project for the United Way, and he said, great, I'll see you in Phoenix. And I said, you never asked me to go to the board meeting. I can't make it to Phoenix. He said, well, it's your report. I said, no, it's your report. I'm a paid gun. This is your report. It caused a lot of problems. So, I would make sure you know every single possible thing there is to know, and that you ask a ton of questions, and that your assumptions section is well thought out. Otherwise, something bites you, and by the way, no matter what it is, it's your fault. So I think we need to be clear as the employee versus the employee versus the employer that the onus is on us to make sure we've asked all the right questions. And it was my fault because I hadn't asked the question of, do you want me at the board meeting? Because the board meetings have always been closed meetings to outsiders, and I considered myself an outsider, and they didn't. They considered me an insider. So that was my bad, my problem to fix. And I had another client to do a presentation with in New York that Thursday. So it was a problem, and that's my fault. It's always your fault. As always, the customer's always right. So that's a little bit about consulting. It has grown like nobody's business. And it used to be, started with IT, then about 8 years ago it was a lot of HR, and then it sort of now is every industry, every function, and every level, which is not what it was before. That is new. That is new for 2020. I'm shocked. Sales, marketing, PR, websites, traffic, customer experience, user experience, software. It's staggering, all consulting. Incredible. And even my junior people, and some of them love it. I don't work with as many junior people as I have in the past. They love it because they want to churn anyway. They're bored quickly, so they're like, good, let me come in here, fix this, and get the hell out of here. It's incredible. Where the rest of us are sort of used to sitting in the same place 2, 3, 4, 5 years, except that's not the way of the world now. We're in a gig economy. They need you to come in, fix something, sort it out, and get the hell out. So you need to figure out, what are you coming in, how will you be deployed, what are you going to get paid, what are you going to fix, and then get out. And come up with your strategy around that. Not in your strategy if someone's going to come to you with a full-time permanent job for the next 10 years. I don't think that's a viable way to look at this. I know it's not a viable way to look at it. And I don't want you to be looking at it that way because it makes it look like you're not living in the real world. So I want to make it very clear of what we've got going on now and what we've seen as trending, true trending, with very, very large metrics around it. Again, we don't have 12 clients a day, as you all know. We have 350 to 400,000 clients in 1 year. In 1 year. And we've been doing this for over 50 years. So we're talking about massive amounts of data. Yes, ma'am.
So I've heard some people, like Blend 360, I've heard I think Upstart or something, which are websites you can put your resume and have a project. Do you recommend?
You know what? I recommend everything. I'm very interested in having 10 things going at the same time. Recruiters, networking, events like this, my alumni, affinity associations, being on a board, volunteering, doing community, I have this incredible view that what have you got to lose? Nothing. What have you got to lose? Nothing. And I mean, there are people in this room that got nothing going on and they're waiting for it to come. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to go out and get it. Because someone else is going to get it if you wait for the phone to ring. And for those of us who are very senior, we're used to sort of sitting there waiting for everybody to come to me for my fantastic expertise. Those days are gone. Those days are gone, and they're not coming back anytime soon. So I think we're going to have to go out there and really hustle a little bit. And so for those who are hustling and have high metrics, they're the people that are landing because they're hustle and they're trying not to be afraid. I'm not saying they're not afraid. You know, courage is a funny thing. You just fake it till you make it. I mean, I had a very famous person doing a talk for a women's organization I'm active in, and I said to her, you always come across as incredibly calm, cool, collected, incredible gravitas. She's amazing. I'm like, how, and I do a lot of public speaking, I'm like, how do you do that? She says, I'm a wreck every time. I said, you're kidding. She said, no, I have a makeup person. I need that. She has like a makeup lady, and she says, my makeup, I forget, stylist. My stylist makes me feel powerful. All right, get me one of them. I'm like, I love it. She said, I get my hair done, I get my makeup done. I said to Tim as we were walking, do I have anything stuck between my teeth? Because all I do is eat all day, like donuts and coffee and cook. I'm like, dang. But that whole idea of wearing something and looking in a way that makes you feel powerful, whether you are or not, is irrelevant. Bring it. They don't know. And they're faking it too half the time. But if you look like something the cat dragged in, or you look sullen, it looks like you came out of a toxic environment and they're worried about you. They're worried that you're going to bring your toxicity into their environment, and they don't want it. It's already such a fragile ecosystem. It's already so fragile. They cannot take the chance that you're not going to be some delicious, wonderful happiness all the time. And some of us have to fake it because that's not our natural way. Yes, ma'am.
Any special?
Hi, Heather.
Hi. Any special advice on
Can't hear you. How to deal with the coronavirus situation. So the way to deal with the coronavirus situation, in my opinion, is to be comfortable for you. So for example, there are people who aren't traveling, are not coming into the city, have self-quarantine, are not traveling, you know, that's their comfort level. Then there are other folks who, you know, somebody said to me when I walked in, you know, do you want an elbow pump? And the answer is no, I don't. I want to shake your hand. Will you shake my hand? I don't want to upset you, but I'd love to shake your hand. You know what I mean? Like, I think it is it is my right to want to be hugged. It is my right to have my hand shook. If you don't want to, I said to Ed, I put my hand out, and then I hesitated for a minute. Ed put his hand right in. So I'm not here to make anyone uncomfortable. I'm not here to touch any way that is inappropriate, that you don't feel is comfortable. You get to determine, just like you always do, your boundaries of what it is you want to do. The bad news is some of us have family in places that are in a state of emergency. So should you get on a plane and go see them? I'm thinking no. No, I mean really. We rented a house in Italy for 2 weeks. Thank you. I have been married 40 years to the best man in the world. That was my gift. Thank you for all sighing. I appreciate that. You know what? It's the thought. I keep saying it's the thought that counts, but damn it. It's not the thought that counts. Ciao is what I was thinking. Ciao, pasta, 2 weeks in Italy. So here's the thing, we're not going, obviously, for obvious reasons, and it's very upsetting. I've been waiting a long time to do this, and my whole family was coming in. I have a very large family. It's a mess, but what are you gonna do? So I'm moving with the punches. I get to hang out with you guys all now for the month of April. I would have been gone. So here I am to harass you. I would have canceled this for sure. So look, I think you have to do what makes you feel comfortable. I do think people should respect your wishes. I did have somebody, you know, elbow me today when he came in to meet with me for the first time. I actually didn't know what he was doing. No, seriously. I went to shake his hand and he kind of went like this, but close to me, and so I kind of was like, hey, it's called an elbow. Right, it's just elbow. I don't want to elbow bump you. Back off. Don't come near me. I'm not elbow bumping anybody. So if you want to elbow bump, it's not me. Like, it's just not me. But I get to be touched the way I want to be touched. I get to be greeted the way I wish to be greeted, whether it's a hug. I look at the other person and you know, and people here, I said, it's great to see you. And I go to hug, and if they pull back, I pull back. So, you know, I know it's real, and we're losing people, and it's growing, and it's a real thing. I get that, but I'm also going to live my life. So you have to determine what is comfortable for you to live your life with your family. But no, that means you have to send out 50 emails instead of 20, and that no one wants to meet you face to face, so don't ask anyone to meet you face to face. Please get calls, no face to face. No face to face. Even my son said, oh Mom, how many people are going to be there? I said, it's okay. He doesn't want me in crowds. He doesn't want me in crowds. And I'm 62, so I'm in a protected class. Anybody over 60 shouldn't be in crowds. That's what they said. So we all have to do what we think is okay for us, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you. Thanks. Yes, sir.
I just,
Oh, nice to see you.
I just want to add, you look fantastic. Sitting in front of the Taj Mahal.
Oh, thank you. Wasn't that great?
LinkedIn.
So that's a great point. We're going to talk now about ageism. And I said I was 62 for a reason. And thank you for mentioning the picture in front of the Taj Mahal. My father was dead at 62, in my arms of a massive heart attack. And I remember when that happened, I said to myself, before I'm 62, I'm going to do all the things I want to do, because I could be dead of a massive heart attack at 62. I turned 62 this year, and the last thing on my list was that Taj Mahal. I said to my husband, I really want to do the Taj Mahal. He said, well, we're doing the Italy thing. What do you mean? I said, I know, I really need to do the Taj Mahal. I'm going to be 62 in April. He said, we're going to Italy. I'm like, I really need to do the Taj Mahal. He's like, oh my God, you realize he never agreed to go to India, never. So I called every friend in the Western Hemisphere I could get to go with me. I went alone. Not only,
It didn't stop you. That's what I'm saying.
nothing stops me. You don't know me. Trust me. That's how you have to be in job search. If you let it stop you, it will win. Nobody beats me. I am in the business of winning. That's my business. And you better be in the business of winning, or someone else is going to get it. So I'm sitting on the Princess Diana bench. You know that bench? I'm sitting there by myself with my whole big thing. And I had a guide, whatever. I hired a car driver. And there's this line of people going up there. And I said to him, you better tell these people it's going to take a while. And the guys were like, I've taken like 12 pictures of this woman. What are you doing? I'm like, I'm just going to sit here for a moment because I need to sort of get my namaste centered. It's going to take a minute. I don't care how many tourists are standing there. They're going to have to wait. I waited my turn. And now I have my turn and I'm not moving. It was hysterical. There must have been 300 people waiting to get on that Princess Diana bench. But I do think this search takes tenacity, it takes creativity, it takes persistence, and it takes doing stuff you'd never do. I did not plan to go to India by myself. I don't know anybody, I've never been, I don't speak the language, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Why did you want to go?
I wasn't going to be stopped because the Taj Mahal was number 40 on my bucket list. And I was going to finish my bucket list before I die. So I have finished my bucket list. Check! Check! So if I die at 62, I'm okay. Kids are grown, money in the bank, finish the Taj, check. But you have to push through. And I find people get hurt and upset when they're rejected and they pull back and they start to recede. And so some resilience is in order on this search. And I think as we get older, it doesn't necessarily get easier. Some things do get easier when you're older. Getting a job doesn't get easier as you get older. So a couple things on ageism. I want to switch hats a little bit from consulting to aging. If there's no other questions about consulting that I can answer. Okay. So ageism is alive and well, of course, and living in New York. And there's some people in the audience that have less of an issue with this than others. And so I think that's terrific. You're in the sweet spot of the market. If you're between sort of 29 and 39 is a great sweet spot for the market. Older Americans, as defined by the AARP, is anyone over 40. This jacket's about 40 years old. It just fits now. It's taken some time, but it's still a little tight. But anyway, at the end of the day, the ageism issue is a real issue. And I think sort of sticking it under the thing and saying it's not HR compliant and we can't talk about it and it's not nice and all that is sort of silly. I mean, it's just kind of silly. We have to admit that there is a bias. Some of it is not a bias that can be recognized, but there are lots of bias, as you can imagine, when you come in to interview, or come in to network, or come in for informationals. And there are a couple of biases, so not just age, but size, color, ethnicity, all sorts of stuff. There's a bias, and we all know that. I think in New York, I'm happy to say it's a very eclectic, interesting, cool place. We've got all different kinds of people, versus other places in the world that have less of an eclectic group of people. But the ageism is a real problem. So I do recommend fighting it in an extremely head-on kind of a way. And I've had stylists come into the office. Actually, that politician gave me the idea of the stylist. I've had 4 stylists in, 4 different ones over 4 years, to get a compare and contrast to what they say. And they do say, you are how you look, you are what you wear, you are what you say. So when you have an AOL account, that obviously messages that you're not technically savvy. So we wouldn't have Yahoo, Hotmail, or AOL, in fact. That's one. So there's an online persona that you give off. There's a face-to-face persona you give off, right? It's everywhere. So what is your social media imprint. Look, what is that footprint? Is it wide? Do you have Insta? Are you on Snapchat? What does your LinkedIn look like? Do you have over 500 connections? What does your headshot look like? Did you have a default, which is a LinkedIn default that they always put up? Or do you have your own? Do you post? Do you comment? Not like and connect to people. That doesn't count and it doesn't increase your algorithm. So not liking and not connecting, but actually using LinkedIn as a tool. That shows you as technologically savvy and in the center of the world. Otherwise, you're old. Those are the two choices. There's only two choices. We're in or out. So I want you to look in. I want you to look engaged. And there's a couple of ways to do that online, which I just depicted, and there's a couple of ways to do it face-to-face when people look at you. So I have people who are still wearing, pleated pants that have cuffs at the bottom, which we did in the 90s. I remember them. I bought them. I definitely bought them for my husband. And I went through his closet like this. Like beautiful handmade suits from Hong Kong. I know, he's dying. They have his name inside. He's like, they have my name inside. Can I take my name out? I said, yeah, cut your name out because the suit's going. He's in the kitchen cutting his name out of his suits. They're going. They're going.
So you suggest don't show up in suits on interviews?
No, that's not what I suggested at all. That's interesting. That's what you heard, though. Can anybody help him out? He said, so you're saying not to show up at interviews in suits? Say it again, sir? With cuffs, thank you.
Please.
Dated, great word, dated. When you look dated, unless you're, a tree, I don't want you to be dated, okay? No dated. And when you look dated, that's not a good thing. So the cuffs gotta go. The pleats gotta go. The black shoes with the black belt gotta go. You gotta look a certain way, and it's not old, unfortunately. Those are a couple of examples. Women, I think I would look, as my politician said, if you need a stylist, get a stylist, but hair, makeup, glasses, fingernails, guys' fingernails too. I have this lovely client, he picks his cuticles till they bleed. I'm like, I need you to get a manicure. He's like, I'm not going in there. I said, well then figure out what to do because you're bleeding. And it looks like hell because you look like a nervous wreck. And when you look like a nervous wreck, they don't want to hire you. And they're looking at your hands. They're looking at two things on men actually, tie and shoes. And then they look at hands and eyes. That's what they're looking at. So if that's what they're looking at on you, that's where you want to make sure it's polished, that they're fabulous, that they fit properly, that it's not too baggy. Everything, people get it baggy because they think it, makes them feel more comfortable. I don't care about your comfort. I mean, I really don't. No, I'm serious. I don't care about your comfort. I care what they think about you and you fitting in their platform. That's what I care about because that's what's going to get you a job. It's not about how we feel. It doesn't matter how we feel. So you're uncomfortable for a couple of hours. Go home and put on your jammies and then be out of work for another 9 months. Like, come on. You either got to do this and get it done or not. And then you can't blame somebody else. You can't play the blame game. We have to agree. I didn't do my hair thing. I didn't do the makeup thing. I didn't change the way I look. I didn't change my clothes. I didn't fix my glasses. I didn't recalibrate my cadence of my talk. I didn't activate my entire network. I didn't use LinkedIn. Like, there's 43 things to do. And you have to do them all some of the time. Not all of them all the time, but all of them some of the time. And if you're not going to do that, it doesn't happen. You can't be cross with anyone but yourself because you didn't get it done. Not they didn't hire you, you didn't get it done. That's something you can own. And you must, because otherwise we're playing the blame game, which we don't want to do. Yes?
You said something about the cadence of your speech.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. Depending on to whom you're speaking, so I was meeting with a very senior guy at an investment bank this morning. He's the head of IT. And he's extremely slow and thoughtful. Okay. And so I you wouldn't recognize me. I went to a meeting with my boss's boss, full of senior people. We come out of the meeting and the client is with my boss's boss. I walk off, blah, blah, blah. She comes back in, she's like, oh my God, he loved you. I said two things. Shut up. I gotta shut up. And I said two things. The guy was like, oh my God, you're so right, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking to myself, whatever. But he loved me, and we got that business. I understood where he was going with what he said underneath. And I just very gently sort of said something. He said, oh, you're spot on. Thank you for bringing that up. You meet these folks and you have got to recalibrate. And I got people just being themselves. I'm like, don't be yourself. This self does not work in a lot of places. It doesn't. I'm gonna make them crazy. I'm gonna make this guy crazy, but I wasn't myself. I was who I had to be to resonate with him. Same thing with the guy this morning. He wants to hear himself talk. No problem. I'm sitting here, I'm listening. Nodding, smiling, leaning forward, good body language, good questions, good eye contact, warm, interested, engaged. I always tell people, stop talking. You're an out-of-work person, they think you don't know anything. And everything you have is between your ears will crush their world. But they don't necessarily believe it right now. Don't do it. You got nothing to prove, you didn't do anything wrong. Stop talking. Smile, nod, lean in.
Is that especially true of women?
No, it's everybody. Is it especially true of women? I said, no, it's true of every man, woman, and child I meet with. Recalibrate for who you're meeting with. When you see them being still, or sullen, or quiet, there is something going on behind the curtain that none of us know anything about. We've all got something going on behind the curtain. We all do. We all do. Give them a break. Everybody's got something going on, but you got to recalibrate. I get people, well, I didn't get to say this, I didn't get to say that. I said, no, you think he gives a flying fig on a windy day about what you got to say? Stop. This isn't about you trying to get in what you want to say. It's not your meeting. It's actually not your meeting. It's their meeting.
So you just listen to their questions.
Yes, so we're going to repeat that. So you just listen to their questions. And the answer is you listen to their questions, you answer their questions the way that you think will resonate with them, which is not necessarily rattling off the 50 things you know because you're an out-of-work guy and they don't think you know anything. And they also think they don't need you. So you want to be very careful that you do it in an extremely warm and professional way, that you're sharing and that you do not overtalk and it doesn't take more than 45 seconds. You'd be surprised how many people overtalk. And then the person who's doing the meeting doesn't get a chance to ask the right questions, doesn't get a chance to introduce you to somebody else because you went over. I love when people say to me, we were supposed to meet for an hour, we met for an hour and a half, and I think, that's my client overtalking.
I wish I had this about two weeks ago. So I went on an interview.
Take your hand away from your face. It's easier to understand you when you're not covering your mouth.
I went on an interview.
Yes.
You know, he asked me 2 questions.
And you rattled off to the races you went.
Yep. And,
Yeah.
And the thing is, you know, I asked him how come I didn't put the job recruiter, and basically says you talk too much.
Yeah, there you go. The number one thing we hear is over talking. The second thing I hear is fit, which typically means age. So over talking is a baddie, and it knocks you right out. So that's why I say do a lot of smiling and nodding. And do not think you are the subject matter expert. From their perspective, you are, and you can share it in 30 seconds. 30 to 45 seconds, and then you gotta beep, so that they can tell you some more, ask you some more questions, introduce you to new people, bring you into another conference room, get you going because they like you, because you listen and are an active listener, versus thinking there's something for you to tell them that they're dying to know. Yes?
I still remember your acronym. Wait, why am I talking?
Yes. Yes, so it's wait, why am I talking? I say it all the time. Wait, just wait. Don't fill the space because it gets quiet. No one wants to talk to you. Stop. Stop. Wait. There's no reason for you to talk unless someone asked you a question, in which case you should answer the question in a warm and engaging way using their name in less than 45 seconds. Stop talking and give them a chance to come back to you. Yes.
You mentioned if you're on the cusp of sweet spot or ageism, is there an age or a year that you graduated that you recommend we take off?
I don't have any graduate years for anyone. If they're 23, I don't have them.
Okay.
I have no years of graduation for anybody that works with me at all, whether they're 73 or 17.
You're starting to work with it, we can figure it out.
I only go back 10 to 15 years for everyone I know. So because we're only going back 10 to 15 years, if you want every year you ever worked and everything you ever did, you can put that on LinkedIn, and I'm quite happy for you to do that if you wish. I certainly have, but on my resume, I've been at LHH for 13 years. I only have that one job. So I don't have any of my investment banking activities. I don't have any of my nonprofit work. I don't have any of that on my resume. There's an additional relevant information section at the bottom that's got kind of a list of those, but that's it. I don't have the years, but the years from 1970 whatever are on my, are on my LinkedIn, so they can see clearly how old I am. I'm certainly not trying to play a game of obfuscation.
Play a game if you're like on the cusp.
No, I would just do the last, I would go by when is a natural split. So I have a gentleman, a natural split for him is actually 18 years because he's been with 2 firms for 18 years total, and then he's got a bunch of other ones. So those other ones, I just put other relevant information. I put the names of the firms because they're great firms, but no years. But he's got 18 years. So there's a natural split when you should stop talking, but anybody putting 20, 30, 40, 50 years down is probably not going to get called by a lot of people. Yes? Sorry, Susan, hang on. I was getting the gal behind you. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I can hear the question.
It's about the online application process. Don't worry about putting old jobs. Just put the last 3 or 4 jobs and don't worry about it. If they're looking for the rest, they'll come after you. In terms of the year you graduated, you can put the year you graduated. They're going to find out anyway. Don't worry about it. If you can't go to the next field, you don't have a choice. Where you have a choice is where they ask for your compensation expectation. I would put 1. If you put 0, you actually, I tried this. You can't get to the next field. If you put 0, you can't, the little red star, you got to go back. So I got that a bunch of times because I apply for jobs, just to be doing what you guys are doing, see if I get called, I met with 2 people that run ATS systems, they run applicant tracking systems, and I said, did I get knocked out for that? She said, no, we're going to call you. I put 1 as my salary comp, as my expectation. She says to me, what are you, Emma Bloomberg? Which we kind of laughed about. Emma Bloomberg, of course, worked for her father and made $1. No, I'm not Emma Bloomberg, but I put the 1 because I thought if I put my real salary, they'd never call me in, which is true, by the way. So you don't get knocked out for 1, but you do get knocked out for putting in a number that might be your number that is not their number, high or low, so you don't want to do that. Yes, Jeff?
Related question. Some of the ATSs now are forcing you to take the salary bands. Where they
Yes.
So how do you recommend?
So I try to figure out who the person is, what the firm is, and I do a little bit of reconnaissance to figure out what the band is, and it's typically 1 to 2 below my guy. Yes, Susan?
Oh, has anyone figured out how to do additional global experience on LinkedIn? So
There's in LinkedIn, how do you put your additional relevant experience without the dates? And the answer is you can't. It's with dates. On LinkedIn, it's with dates. I've talked to them about that. They're not going to change that.
So
Yes.
How do you recommend dealing with interviews where you don't have somebody on the other side that is an experienced interviewer? They're, just maybe the third of
Just make them
whatever.
love you.
Do you take more
What
of
you
a
don't
leadership
do,
role? Or
yeah.
what?
So when you take a leadership role, you don't get called back. You're not the leader. You've been invited. You're a guest in their home. It is their meeting. You taking control is not the right move, and I certainly wouldn't put you through. So I get interviewed by, I'm not kidding, 24-year-olds that have no idea what they're talking about, no idea what I do, haven't looked at my resume. I'm incredibly charming and warm, and I always get to the next level. I have never not gotten invited in, never. And I've been interviewing for 40 years. And I interview now. I have an interview on Friday. And I always get through. On the phone and Skype, as well as face-to-face. So, and the way I do that is, it only matters, one thing only matters. It's the only thing that matters, is how you make them feel. It's the only thing that matters. And when you don't make them feel good, they ding you. And anybody can ding you. That's the so annoying thing, remember? Like, who got to ding me? Like, hello, I'm senior. Like, who is this gal dinging me? Nobody dings me. Because I'm not stupid. I know they play a role. And they're the ones that decide which resumes go forward. And I'm not exactly a perfect fit, and I'm too old, and too senior, and too expensive. And I know that, going in. So I pull back, because if I come in that way, they're definitely gonna ding me. Definitely. I can't threaten anyone. And I don't want any of you to threaten anyone either. Because it's a perfect way not to get put forward. And you wanna we're just trying to get get the meeting. And if I meet the hiring manager and this dude is a dope, I don't want to work for him anyway. I'll sink myself quite well, thank you. But I will not have her impede my process to meet the hiring manager. And she can impede my process on meeting the hiring manager. I wouldn't do it. Because the real thing is to get to the hiring, right? I mean, the real thing is to get to the business. And once you get the business, you're good. You got to go through the gauntlet of nonsense to get to the business. So what? Smile and nod. I laugh when I look at these people. I'm a 38-year-old, a 35-year-old. I laugh like hell. I'm not kidding when I tell you these people are 22 years old. I could eat them for lunch. Like, they're this big, like they have no experience. I'm like, what is this schmont that you got on? Like, did you look in the mirror when you went out this morning? Why don't you speak in English? Why aren't your sentences full? Why are your emails so poorly constructed? Like, I'm a maniac. And what a great question, Tom. Thanks so much for asking me that. That's how I talk. I sound like an idiot. I always get asked, always get asked in. Because you can kill them with kindness. And you gotta. And you got it. You're not gonna change them. Like, their boss might change them, but I'm not gonna change them. So my idea is to get through this knucklehead and get to the hiring manager. And once I meet that guy or gal, we're gonna know whether everything's copacetic or whether it's like, so that's what I would do. Hang on 1 second. You had your hand up.
Yeah, so in resume
And ages, and can you do me a favor and take your glasses off your head?
Sure.
Thank you.
For LinkedIn and resume, most of us have a little something about ourselves. And,
Yes.
You know, say I've experienced it over 15 years, 18 years, 20 years. So you should not have any years. You should take that out, that sentence out completely.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank
so many
you.
people tell you you need to put it, but don't put over 50.
You know what? I always tell people it's like parenting. You know, everybody's got an opinion about the best way to parent. And everybody's got a best way about job search and resumes. This is the only thing I do. I don't know how good I am on the parenting thing. You can call my kids. But this thing, like my numbers on this, we metric everything out. How many people land? How long does it take them? Do they make more money? Are they? Like, I am the subject matter expert in this. So I think you should take everybody's opinion and listen and take it all in and process it and do what feels right to you. But you want to pick what feels a little bit scary. Otherwise, it's complacency. And I want you to step it up. Because between now and June is going to be a rocky road. So you've got to really batten down the hatches a little bit. And then you had your hand.
Yeah, that approach you described, was
Yes.
that just for the hiring manager?
The approach is the
the
same.
HR screen?
The approach is the same, and it's calibrating towards the audience. The most important thing is for you to think about the audience and for you to resonate with the audience. So if the person that you're meeting with is, as this gentleman described, that's the way to handle that. If the person's silent, the way another person asked me, then I go stealth. So your point about is that what you do for everybody, the whole point of this is not to do the same thing for everybody. The whole point is this is every single one of you processes differently and communicates differently. And my job as the interviewee is to modulate based on my audience so I resonate. And what works with Mary Rose, I assure you, is not going to work with Jeff or Tim or Susan. It's not. So your ability to be on and figure out who you're meeting with and what's going to make them like you and be heard is what I'm looking for you to do. And it takes practice, which is why you got to network with 150 people you don't know. And I got people whose numbers are so low they're never going to land because they've networked with 12 people all month. And I'm like, how are you going to get a job? There's 8.5 million people in New York. And so I say, okay, well then you got to know, some of us are in the right lane going 40, some of us in the middle lane going 60, I'm in the left lane going 90. I'm just going to get there before you. You might get there, but it'll be next year's business. You can't expect it to be this year's business. It's definitely next year's business. And you have to get yourself ready for that. And I find people don't manage their expectations. Their output and throughput looks like this, and their expectation is this. And I'm like, well, how would you get a job like that when this is what you do? Don't laugh. I go to Weight Watchers every Friday, and I was just talking about all the donuts that people buy me and stuff like this. So my expectation to lose weight on Friday, but those dough donuts are this big? So if you have 2 of those in one day, we can know how this is going to go on Friday when I weigh in. You know what I mean? Right. So, and a guy landed today, brought in this unbelievable steel magnolia. What's that place called? Magnolia Bakery. Thank you. pudding, banana.
Banana bread pudding.
Ay, that's the right technical term. I'm like this with the spoon, like the bowl. I'm like this. It was disgusting. I had like full health. So, here's my expectation of to lose weight, except this is my behavior. So your expectation is to get a job, and here's your behavior? No, absolutely not. And so the only thing I do that people don't like is I say you're never gonna land, like doing what you're gonna do. That's not gonna happen. So you have to get your behavior aligned with your expectation. You have to get your behavior aligned with what you want your outcome to be. And if your outcome is a job in a certain time period, great, let me see the metrics that support that. The same way you have to see my eating habits that support a losing weight on Friday, which with the donuts is probably not gonna happen. Unless I don't eat between now and Friday morning, nothing else, and I fast, I might be the same on Friday, which I'm thinking about. It's a desperate situation.
The concept of modulate is also including mirroring, where you're mirroring the...
Yes, I love that. I think when I meet with people, they'll say, would you like, they have a juice, and they'll say, hey, would you like a juice? And I don't drink these juices. And anything organic, I wouldn't eat. So, like organic carrot juice out of the container is not something I would do. And you know what I say? Oh, I'll have what you're having. Always. I have drank the most like a green slimy thing. Like crappy coffee, black. Oh, I'll take it the way you take it. I don't take it black, but he took it black, so I took it black. My teeth are probably getting black from all the coffee I drink that's black. I don't drink. I hate black coffee. It's disgusting. But I'm trying to fit. I'm trying to mimic, and I'm trying not to come across as a diva who needs special attention. And when you come across like you need special attention, they don't want you. They don't, because they're trying to like slip this person in without anybody else noticing and worried that they're going to lose their job, which they're going to do because they're bringing you in to upgrade, and then you're going to have to fire someone. That's typically the case. So it's a little bit dicey. So that's why I try to fit. So I love the idea you brought that up, Jeff, which is called mimicking. And you absolutely want to mirror and mimic to the best of your ability. What I don't want you to do is get comfortable, casual, or dress like them. I'm a big fan on being at least 1 or 2 levels up. So if they're in slacks and a shirt, you should be in a suit or a suit without the tie. So I'm happy for you to be more casual than you might be if it's a very casual environment or it's a Friday and they say it's casual, fine, then be in a pair of slacks, a shirt, and a blazer. But you don't work there. So you gotta be careful that you're not exactly like them because you haven't earned that yet. When you get the job, you've earned it, but you haven't earned it yet. Other questions on consulting, ageism, or anything else? Yes?
Question. Because of my seniority, I find, and good companies that I've worked for, I'm finding that people like to call me and kind of pick my brain and ask to put together a presentation and things like that. And I'm feeling like, doing this, putting a lot of time into it, and then don't get the job, and maybe a younger person, or whatever reason. Is there any advice that you have on how much should you give, or how do you?
So I'm a big believer in giving because what goes around comes around, and we typically don't have the secret sauce. I know we think we do, but we don't. I don't. You don't. None of us do. I do think there is, and you're the only one who knows where the line is drawn. I had a client with the same situation, and I asked her how long it would take her, how many hours, blah 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 blah. And what I said was, I want you to go back and say, you know what? As I looked at this, I'm actually working on something like this, and it's a consulting assignment, and I'm actually getting paid to do it. It's a business plan to create this new line of business, and I'm not comfortable doing it and just sending it along. So I'm going to back out of this process, but I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity. So you all have to decide, but it's one thing to be vulnerable because you feel like you're out. It's another to be taken advantage of. And I have people who think they have interviews and they're not interviews. They're just bringing them in to pump them for information from the place they used to work, and they see it as an interview, and it's actually not an interview. And it's sad because I watch it happen every day, and they're just using my people. And then when they don't get the job, they were never in play for that job. And so I always say to people, careful what you think you're in play for. Most of the times when there's a role and you're being matched to the role, you're not in play. They've already got an internal and an external candidate. That's why I tell people, identify your targets and go after your targets through networking. Don't do the role thing because they've already got somebody and they've got an internal and an external. So I would definitely think about where my line is, and if something's going to take me an hour or two and I can get it done and put it in a PowerPoint and not send it ahead of time and bring one copy with me and go through it and then take it back, no problem. But if it looks more in depth, I'd say, I just realized when I looked at this project, it's really quite extensive. It's going to take me quite a long time. And I'm doing this kind of thing as consulting projects for companies who are interested in building these platforms. And so if you'd like me to do it as a consulting project, I'd love to. And if not, I just wanted to thank you. Other things I could do to be helpful? Other questions? I hope this was helpful.
Actually, there was one question that came up
Yes,
earlier.
sir. Yeah.
If you had a good interview with someone and they respond to you saying, thank you for your interest, we're keeping you in mind, we're working through it, and you're already connected to that people, your second level connection to them, it's okay to reach out and try offer to connect to that person on LinkedIn.
The answer to that is no. If you are in play, you should not be connecting with anyone if you are in the process. If you've been dinged or you get the job, that is the time to connect. Do not connect in process. It's not the right time, and they will feel put upon and feel like they have to answer you and say yes. And you will think that something wonderful happened, and nothing wonderful happened except that you made them feel awkward. So let's be clear on what's happening here. They didn't connect with you because you get the job. They connected with you because you put them on the spot, and they felt they had to. Okay? So watch that. Don't do it. When in doubt, I'd pull back in general on stuff. I have a guy who's extremely funny. I mean, really funny. And one of the things I've been working through with him is not using his humor indiscriminately. Because some people don't get the joke and they're people in here, like they haven't cracked a smile yet. They look like, they're not happy. I'm like, why are they even here? Like, leave. Don't be here. No, seriously. Like, don't be here. If you're not happy, go. I don't know why you'd sit someplace where you don't want to be. It's weird. But he's just got humor and he folds it into everything. And so I've been sort of telling him when it's okay, when it's safe to fold it in. Because there's some places it's not safe to fold it in. And some stuff's slightly off color. He doesn't mean it that way, but he's darling. I adore him, and we're working on it. But it's tricky. I saw a hand. Yes, sir.
These techniques, they also apply to telephone interviews.
I'm sorry?
These techniques apply to telephone interviews.
Oh, these techniques apply to telephone interviews. Absolutely. I think the telephone's much harder than face-to-face, but the number of telephone will be growing astronomically, and the number of face-to-face will be decreasing at the same level. So your ability to be really impactful on the phone and come across with energy and clarity and fit are going to be paramount, because they're not going to see you. No one's even going to fist pump you or elbow you. They're not going to see you. They're going to video it. So if you look like something the cat dragged in, that's not going to go well. And some of these videos, I look at myself, this one too, here's Tim with the video, and I look ridiculous. And I think, no one's going to hire me. So, you need to make sure that you're coming across with the right gravitas, the right mix. Because of course you want to come across with gravitas, but you also want to come across as warm and engaged and engaging and interested. I have very senior people who come across with a way that, I would never hire them. And they're definitely the smartest guy in the room, for sure. Would never hire them. I can't put them with anybody. Like, I'd have to put them in the back room by themselves, and we don't have that anymore. We have open floor plans, it's all cubes. I have people I can't put in a cube. They would never sit in a cube and be successful. Except that's all there is now. So where does that leave my guy? On the street. Not working. Not working. So it's our ability to move into this market. That is what I'm asking you to do. There is tons of work out there, and I have people landing literally every day. Every single day, someone's landing. Why not you? Don't be stuck in the mud. Yes.
So again, just to clarify, if you're
Yes.
meeting with somebody in your network, don't even suggest face-to-face, just
No.
go with the telephone.
I wouldn't even suggest it. I really feel like people do it because they feel bad for us or are trying to do something nice. And I don't want them to do it to feel nice. I want them to give me connections into my target companies. That's what you need. You don't need anybody to have a coffee with. You need people to give you a connection to your target companies. You need a list of the 15 companies and 15 people in those companies. And you don't have 15 names in the 15 companies. And because you don't have that, you don't have a game afoot. And when you got that going, you got a game going. And the only way to get that is from them. And the coffee thing is a waste of time and money and space. literally a waste at this time. Everything is in this moment, and in this moment, as I said to you, people are like, where you going? I'm like, I'm going. And they're like, who are those people? I'm like, oh, stop it. Somebody don't spit on me. I don't want to worry about coronavirus. Come on. But they're all like, oh, you're going to a crowd? So this is a difficult time. Don't make people uncomfortable. Get those metrics up. Build campaign in your target companies. Look, act, sound young, vibrant, energized, contemporary, cutting edge technologist, whatever it is. Do everything you can to look the sweet spot of the age group. I tease people, I'm 62, I'm going for like 49. I'm going. And you know what the stylist said? Get some of the weight off, you'll look younger. I'm gonna punch her in the face. Anyway, I'm going to Weight Watchers, I'm gonna get the weight off because I'm gonna fight this fight on ages and I'm gonna win. And you're gonna see me in another job that's not LHH, and I'm gonna get that job. Because they're gonna think I'm 49, not 63. If I can do it, you can do it. Anything else? Going once, going twice.
Question.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
were saying that, bumping off his question about not face-to-face
Yes.
and telephone instead.
Yes.
Is that because of coronavirus or something?
It's both.
It's both.
Yeah,
Okay.
it takes a really long time to get work.
Okay.
And you accelerate your process by doing it on the phone.
Got it.
And so I'm a big fan of phone and not a big fan of face-to-face because you waste a lot of time. Half an hour to get there, 40 minutes to have the thing, you get there a half an hour early, then they go back to their office, you got a half an hour to get home, you killed half the day. And by the way, you're nowhere. Because you didn't bring your marketing plan, you didn't get 3 new contacts, but you had a great coffee. I look at the ROI on everything everybody does, and the ROI on that is diminishing. Tiny, tiny, tiny. I saw another hand. Yes?
I know what you say not to push income applications because it just goes into the black hole. But I think the program manager prior to the applications today, the applications do you think I can get with like banks and not myself on that because I can do the applications.
So just nonprofits alone, there are 35,000 nonprofits in New York. So you can imagine how many corporates there are in New York. So the very idea that you would be applying to the same ones over and over again with the same result concerns me. There's a lot of companies. You shouldn't be tripping over yourself, and you can apply as many times as you wish to the same organization, as long as they're roles that you have done in the past or that you could do. But there are absolutely thousands and thousands of places that you could be applying for jobs. So, I mean, I have someone who has gotten, I don't know, 400 to 500 applications out, and he's nowhere. It's a big waste of time. So, you're in a program and you have to do it? Okay, fine, do what you gotta do, of course. But I don't want you to expect anything to happen. I want you to assume it's a big zero. Nothing will happen. Okay, now what am I filling in my days with? Like, okay, I got those 3 apps in, now what? Right? Now. Because I recommend 1 app a week. Because the number of people I've had who've landed jobs through job applications is so de minimis that I make it a very tiny part of your job search. Because at your level, it's highly unlikely. It's possible, anything's possible. Miracles happen every day, thank God. I'm a big believer in miracles, they happen every day. So, do it, but what are you doing that's actually gonna get you a job? Not fulfill the requirement of the program, get you a job. I always talk about, activity versus productivity. I'm looking for productivity, not activity. Seriously, and I don't mean that in a negative way. She's in a program, she's got to do 3. I get it. But then what are you really doing for job search? Because that's not job search. That is fulfilling the requirements of a program you're in. Check. It's like me doing Weight Watchers. I'm eating donuts, I'm not really doing the program, am I? No, you know what I mean? Like, are you doing the program? No, you're not doing the program. But you're doing their program, so that's okay. Look, don't be so hard on yourselves. You're all doing stuff. It's just doing the right amount of stuff, enough of the stuff, different stuff, to have this happen. That's really what this is about. It's adding value to the stuff you're doing. Not saying everything you're doing is wrong, because that's not the case. Anything else? Does anybody need mine?
There's one question back there, Charlotte.
Yeah, can you send them back? Yes, yeah, Michael?
Just noticed we're at a networking event.
Yeah.
And nobody has their LinkedIn networking turned on.
Oh, yeah,
You
well.
guys know how to do that?
They do know how to do
You
it.
don't know.
So it turns out I've been told by my chief of staff over here that once I am released from my position, they will do that. Isn't that great? I'm very excited about that. I'm about to be released. What else? Going once, going twice. I saw a couple of other hands. Everybody good?
Thank you very much.
You're very
Thanks,
welcome.
Ellen.